Sup, guys?
Hey.
Hey, hey. Hey, let me see your best dance move.
It's gonna be a dance off before we.
Nice.
Wait, come back up. Wait, Hey, wait. Here, do one arm wave from your right hand to your left, and I'll pick it up. Ready, go. No, with your arms open like this. Here he goes. I got it. I'm picking it up. Oh, I'm bringing it back. Go. That's awesome.
High five, Haley.
Wait till you see what that looks like on this side.
It's awesome.
It's pretty good. It's going to be good. All right. Hollywood Hustle TV starts now.
Welcome to the Hollywood Hustle. We can dance all night. You got moves and I got moves. It's the Hollywood Hustle.
All right. Okay. So I got to form a thing today. I'm going to pick up where we left off, but I have to build something new it's going to really explain a lot. So, what?
Yeah, I mean, he knows your arm here, so he's gonna come. He wants to see you.
Yeah,
It's same thing.
He knows.
he does.
He knows it's me. Hey. Hey, look how happy he is now.
So precious.
He's like, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just want to be part of it. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, real quick. So, I'm going to pick up real quick off in the book of Job, and then we're going to paint a picture today. I think I'm going to title this, Your Thoughts Set Up a Throne, or something like that. Well, it'll be something like that. It'll be something close. Okay, so remember how we said in Job chapter 10, that it says in Job chapter 10, verse 4, that when you have eyes of flesh, or it says that you see as a man seeth. So flesh is the same thing as man. Flesh and man are the same. And it says your days as a man's, as the days of man, or your years as a man's days. So I just want to remind people out there that are watching this that your eyes are connected to your days, and that flesh is connected to man. The opposite of man is God, and the opposite of flesh is spirit. But your eyes are also known as your thoughts, and your thoughts are connected to your mind, which is your state, which comes from counsel. That's why the counsel of the wicked here is connected to wickedness, is connected to the flesh. Counsel is connected to eyes. So, with that being reminded, I want to flip to. What's my next one on Job? There is it 7, not 17. I'm going to do. The next page.
Next page?
Yeah, no. Right here on the next page. Yeah.
What verse?
Right there, yeah. Okay, so I have to say this. Bring it down a little bit. Yeah, right there. Okay, so we went over this before, but I have to quickly kind of put it back on camera, so it's because I know it's old information, but still new for people. It said in Job chapter 11, verse 20, but the eyes of the wicked shall fail, and they shall not escape. Right? So your eyes can fail. We're going to remember that because we'll get to that later today. But your eyes are connected to your age. Verse 17 says, and your age shall be clearer than the noonday, and thou shalt shine forth, and thou shalt be as the morning. So your age has to do with your eyes. And this age, it has more than one meaning. It's not just like how old you are. It is, but it's like a spiritual age. But it has to do with your times. Your times is always connected to your age. Your times is always connected to days, which is connected to your age. And that always has to do with your brightness and your darkness. And that's connected to, up here where it says, verse 15, for you shall lift up your face without spot. Yea, thou shalt be steadfast, you shall not fear. So being steadfast and not having spot or any blemishes, basically your face being clean is connected to your age. I just wanted to kind of remind people of that. We're going to get into the next thing I want to say about the age and the eyes. Remember, eyes are days. So we're going to go all the way to Amos chapter 6. Amos chapter 6. This is where we're headed with this, because we're getting into, this is going to, if I can get everything on video today, this is going to pretty much prove that what happened with Lucifer, and that what he did is still what he's doing today, and then what God's trying to do with us is bring back, I'll say this, I have to say it this way, the church is meant to replace that 1/3 of the angels that fell, and the portion of their dominion where Lucifer was over them, that whole area, which is now has a shell or a case or a skin as like a patch over the area that was corrupted. And so the church is supposed to replace that 1/3 of the angels, but as a brand new creation, so God can reset his tent inside of the temporary tent as a shell. But he is doing a second layer. That's what the natural realm is for. But that natural realm is meant to show as a reflection the spiritual throne that is set up behind the scenes, right? And we're going to get into, if I can get to it today, you know how the ball earthers say how the earth hangs upon nothing?
Yeah.
I'm going to get into, hopefully I can get to that today, because there's like at least 3 different meanings for that. So Amos chapter 6 verse 3 says, "Ye that put far away the evil day, and cause the seat of violence to come near." And I'm just going to say it because it's written here. Revelation chapter 16 verse 10, I believe, is talks about how a seat is a throne, because a seat is a chair, and a chair is part of a king's throne. So you know how it said on the day of Pentecost, how it said the Holy Spirit sat upon each one of them? Well, we are God's chair. We are God's throne. He sets up his throne upon us, just like he did with the angels. We are no different. The only thing different is we have a shell of flesh. Think of it as a skin, like a wine skin. The angels didn't have that wine skin. God was smart. He knows how to add a layer on top of something that was corrupted, right? Like your jeans that wears out in the knees. It's like you have all your pair of pants, but your knees wear out. What happened was there was an area in God's throne that wore out because all of the frames were twisted in the minds of the angels, so they were stripped of their crown and they became nothing, or they became dark. What's known as the shadow of death and the stone of emptiness. They got emptied out and stripped, and they were left bare naked. Well, that created a whole brand new water, and that's what God said he wanted to divide the waters from the waters. And right, so the waters that were emptied is the waters inside the tent, but the waters that are still full and full of glory are on the outside of the tent, of the temporary tent of the firmament. But God still has to hang a spiritual tent inside that temporary, because that temporary is going to go away that once it's all healed. Just like when you put a Band-Aid on and it heals, you can remove the Band-Aid. It works the exact same way. That's what I said. It's such a perfect example. But back on to Amos 6:3, when you put far away the evil day, here it's not talking about, most of the time when the Bible talks about the evil day, it's talking about like the curse. But this one, if you follow this line down here, and you'll see it when it's recorded, to looks like 5:20, it says, "Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it?" Okay, so the day of the Lord, because it says, verse 18 said, "Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light." Now this is talking about the day of the Lord as concerning when his presence comes and he's now a consuming fire. If you're on the wrong side of the coin, so to speak, as concerning your relationship with God, he's going to devour you as a consuming fire. If you're on the right side, that same consuming fire will also restore you. So in essence, it says, when it says, ye that put far away the evil day, you can put far away God's presence and also cause the seat of violence to come near. So a day is a seat, or a day is a throne. So when you put away one, you make another one come. Because there's only two. There's only the seat of Satan and the seat of God. That's it. You have the dark waters and the bright waters. The shadow of death, which is the veil, and the riches of his glory, which is the cloud. Right? So that's all there is. The light and the dark, the day and the night, the morning, the evening. So when one goes away, when you put it far away, you cause the other one to come near. One goes away, the other one occupies. That's the way it works. So, but my point of this one is to show that a day is also a seat. Because when the evil day goes away, so does that presence. Remember, just because we are the seat of the Holy Spirit, you can also be the seat of Satan. Satan can set up his residency, his tent on you. He can set up his smoke on you, because we're stakes. Whatever we cord ourselves to and we tether ourselves to is what is going to be in the air.
Or Wi-Fi.
Like a Wi-Fi, just like a Wi-Fi signal. So you can easily go from Sprint to Verizon, or Verizon to Sprint, like that one guy did. Can you hear me now? Right? So he left Verizon, now he's a Sprint. So it's just, every time I see him now with Sprint, I'm
That's
just
weird.
I know, so weird. I just think like, you're such a traitor. so anyways, so I want to go
Like
to
the industry, they all sell out, right?
what's that?
Like the industry where they all sell out.
Yeah, everyone sells out. They probably offered him some.
Yeah.
They probably offered some better money. So, okay, so, or his contract ran up. I want to go to Daniel chapter, what does it say there? 7? Verses 8, 9. This is a key here to prove what I just showed there in Amos. Now remember, the Bible is written, you're so adorable. Like, beep. That'll make sense when you see it on video. See, I can touch and like beep. Anyways, this one right here, remember the Bible is written in synonymous terms, so when it says one thing, it's going to say it again and again and again. It's written just like the way the tent's set up. So Daniel chapter 7, I said?
Yep.
Verses 8, 9, and 10. So at the very end of 7, it said it had 10 horns, and I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. That word little has a lot of meaning to it. Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes, like the eyes of man. Remember how Job chapter 10, do you see like a man seeth? So if you seeth like a man seeth, you have eyes of flesh. So this is talking about someone that's carnal. So, and it says, and a mouth speaking great things. So the mouth is connected to the eyes, which is connected to a horn. Okay, so you find out the horn is a voice. So your eyes are your thoughts, but we know that you speak through your mouth your thoughts. So it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down. So now it's talking about a throne. Remember, a seat is a throne? So here it goes. The eyes is also a throne. So when you cast down the throne, you're casting down the eyes, or casting down the imaginations. Remember that in 2 Corinthians 10:5? Casting down imaginations and every high and lofty thing that raises itself up against the knowledge of God, and taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal or fleshy, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. When you pull down a stronghold, you pull down the eyes, or you pull down the horn, or you cast down a throne. All the same thing. It's how you change. You'll find out the throne. Remember, in Daniel chapter, later, I think in this chapter 7, or it's 5, 5:10, it says that the thoughts are connected to the countenance. So that means the countenance, since the eyes or the thoughts connected to the countenance, that means the throne is seen in the countenance. So that means the seat. You can see the seat inside the countenance. So watch this. I'm going to read on. Verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. There it is. A sit is a throne. A sit is a seat. There it is. And whose garment was white as snow. Your garment is also the throne. The garment is your countenance. The garment is seen in your countenance. So it was white as snow, and his hair of his head, and you'll see that the garment is also connected to your hair, which is connected to your crown, and crown is a king which sits on the throne. So like the pure wool, his throne. So now it's Jesus' throne against the thrones of the world, right? His spiritual throne, which is white, goes against the eyes of man, which you'll find out is dark, like black. So his throne was the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So a throne is also a wheel, and a wheel is a burning fire, which is a fiery flame. So a throne is a wheel, but we know a wheel is a circuit. So your eyes, remember, a circuit is also a wheel. So remember, a wheel is also a compass, which is round about you. Remember the compass of eyes round about them, the four living creatures? They had a bunch of eyes round about before and behind. That's a throne. That's also a picture. So then lastly, it says a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him, and thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set and the books were opened. This is another deep thing here, but I'll quickly say it on camera. When you stand before God, the only way you can stand before God is if you are a fiery stream yourself. Your eyes have to be eyes of spirit. Then you can get closer to God and you stand before him. Then he anoints you. Then you carry the spirit of judgment and of burning. Like it says, I think in No, it's one of the smaller prophets. I want to say it. I forget which one it is. I have to look it up and I can't because my book has so many like markers in it right now. But there's a spirit of burning and of judgment. But anyways, that's when you go execute. That's what like Ananias and Sapphira, when Peter said, "Why did you lie to the Holy Ghost?" And he went, pfft, they just dropped dead because he had the spirit of burning and of judgment on him. The throne of God was set upon him, and his eyes were up, and his mind. He has to be spiritually minded is life and peace, but also spiritually minded. That life is also the light of men, which is a burning fire. It will consume you, and that's the evil day. That for the wicked, it was an evil day for the evil.
Did you say in Colossians the head of all principality as well, or is that tie-in?
Yeah, it's a bridge too far right now. She's talking about how Jesus is the head, and when we get that fire on us, we also become heads, and it builds. But I don't have the infrastructure set up yet for that to explain that. So let me see. Where do I want to go to next? I had those. Now that we know that a throne is a day is a throne, that means your times is a throne. There's a couple things I wrote down here. I want to. Times is a throne. Oh yeah, that's where I want to go. I had some really good stuff that God showed me last minute. He's like, put this in. I was like, this is great. So this I have to say is that seasons change. Your times and your seasons change by drawing near or drawing back, right? But when it draws near in that wheel or that circuit of heaven, which is known as the ordinances of heaven. That's in Job chapter 38. There's ordinances, right? These ordinances are laws. There's the spiritual laws that are of life or death, blessing or cursing. Those are the circuit. They have circuits to them. Those circuits are wheels. And so those circuits that bring those seasons or those times are either drawn in or they're put far. Like we just read, it's either it either comes near or it puts far by us drawing near or drawing back. So as we draw near, it comes near. That's the law of attraction that was taught a long time ago. But what I want to say is, remember, your eyes is your days, but also remember your eyes is your age. So that means your days are your age. Does that make sense? That your days are your age? So if your days are your, so we know that by the sun, moon, stars, and all the natural calendar helps us to record our flesh age, right? But it's a model of how our spiritual age works. And they're of full age when you're on meat, strong meat, but when you're of lower age, you are on milk, right? Look at him, he smiled when I said milk. He's like, ooh, milk. Ooh, milk. So your days is your age, your times is your age, but also your age is your eyes. What we said, your eyes. Now here's what I'm getting to. We got to get to Isaiah 30, wherever that was on there. What was it? Isaiah what?
I think it was 39 or no, 37.
37? Okay, Isaiah 37.
Well, you changed it, so.
Right there.
Okay.
So Isaiah 37 and verse 12. This is where it's going to start to make sense, guys. This is going to bring it all home. Okay, so verse 12 says, mine age is departed and is removed from me as a shepherd's tent. I have cut off like a weaver my life. Your life is a tent. It's so interesting about this life here, because it's also in Job chapter 7 about the life, that your life is also like the wind or a vapor. What is your life? Is but a vapor, right? I'll get into that one on the next video. Your life is but a vapor. It's so much deeper than we've all heard it. Like, I always think, like, oh, you're here today and gone tomorrow. You're not going to live very long. Not even close what it really means. It's super, super deep. But I'll wait for the next video on that one. So, first I'll say this. Mine age is departed and is removed. How can your age depart and remove? If you think about this carnally, as flesh, it won't make any sense. But if you see age as a spiritual thing that is connected to your countenance, which works like a tent, then it begins to make sense, because the tent works like a flood. Because things pour on you and fill you up, and you begin to blossom. But that blossoming is like a covering, like a fabric of a tent. You are a fabric, it's a clothing, but it's also a fabric of the mesh of the tent. But that tent wall, the wall of the tent is a water barrier that has a color to it. And so those waters is either clean or dirty, right? And it's a wall, it's a barrier that is also a fabric that begins to build that tent. But that water is your eyes, which is your state of mind and your age. There is another one in Psalms. I'm going to remind me of Psalms after this. Okay, so see how it says departed right there? I'll just say it because I'll have to jump around a lot. It's in the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, it talks about, it says how the heavens will roll up like a scroll and they will depart. Actually, we should go there. Let's say that place. It's very important that you see this. So, I want this to be seen because it's going to build the final picture. It's Revelation 6:14. So, Revelation 6:14. So, actually, we'll have to read before that 13. It says, the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. So the stars of heaven fall. We know that stars of heaven are angels, but it's also the people of that the angels work through, but it's also the position that they work through, the high place, but it's also the strongholds that are in their minds that sets up the tent. So the heavens are a tent. It says in Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 20, we'll read that as well, but the stars of heaven are stretched out like a tent. Okay? So that tent is the heavens, but that tent is connected to your age. So remember, it says my age is departed and removed. Remember that. So watch this. That it says in verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, or removed. There it says moved, but it also means removed, like to be taken away. And that's also, this is quoted out of Isaiah. This is in Isaiah. We might try to go to it if we can. But that word departed is also connected to the word moved. So that heavens is a tent. So remember that it says the word departed right there. I want to go to Isaiah because I want to show that one on camera too. It'll begin to give us a bigger picture of what I'm trying to paint here. We'll go to Isaiah. Let's see, what chapter? Oh, it's 34. I think 34. Yep. 34:4. Isaiah 34:4. Now remember, the Revelation Jesus Christ said the heavens departed, right? Here in 34:4 says all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their host shall fall. Remember before it said the stars of heaven, right? It said the stars of heaven will fall. Now it says their host shall fall down as a leaf falleth off the vine and the falling fig from the fig tree. It does repeat the fig tree thing again. It repeats the fig tree. This thing jumps so much. So fig tree, but there says the host of heaven is dissolved. So you'll find out that to dissolve is to melt, is to fade away, is to vanish away. What happens is the eyes begin to forget, and the state of mind that you hold begins to vanish and fade, and that's being dissolved, and that's when you roll up the heavens like a scroll. It departs, and your age is connected to it. Of how old you are, you begin to wither, literally. If you begin to go far away from God, your age, you begin to like grow in a different age, like a -1 through 7. but you can grow up positive 1 through 7. So remember, there's only scale of 7 going up and scale of 7 going down. But in the book of Ephesians, it says your age, the age is the ages to come. Remember, Jesus said, I'll be with you till the end of the age. That word there is translated world. So age is not only just connected to the world, it's connected to your times. Because your age or your state of mind is connected to your times, and that's connected to your world or your reality. So if you are a part of the Babylonian system, right? That's the world. The world is Mystery Babylon. It is a pyramid scheme world, and you have to be trained in it to walk it out and act it out. That has to be dissolved or forgotten, and it has to roll up like a scroll. That's how you make it depart. So it departs just like a shepherd's tent. It can be pulled down, rolled up, and removed. You can carry it and go off somewhere else, right? The same thing can happen to us. Our age can depart and remove and be taken down like a tent. So I want to show one thing in Psalms. I know I'm going to jump around. I didn't expect to go this way, but it's just to paint this picture, and we're going to jump right back on. It's Psalm 39, chapter 4 and 5, or verses 4 and 5. Psalm 39, verses 4 and 5. So, here it is, another proof. So, it says, Lord, make me to know mine end and the measure of my days. So your days have a measure and your days have an end. Right? That end is when something changes. But there's a measure to how long those days can remain. And really, they remain as long as there's not a change. But when there's a change, it'll end and something else begins. That's what we call before and after. But it says, what it is that I may know how frail I am. Behold, here's the key. Verse 5. Behold, that thou hast made my days as a handbreadth, and mine age is as nothing before thee. Verily, every man at his best state is altogether vanity. So there's some things I got to chunk up together here. Nothing is connected to man, is connected to vanity. Age is connected to state, which is connected to your days, which is connected to, see where it says, make me to know. Remember, you have to know your end. Or remember in the book of Hebrews, it says, you discern both good and evil. Make me to discern when good is over and evil is beginning. Make me to discern when evil is over and good is beginning. Make me to know my end, whether it's good or evil, and when one thing ends and another begins. Or make me to know how change works. It's really deep, I'm telling you. What changes? Your state. But your state is connected to your eyes, which is connected to your age, which is connected to your days and times and seasons. That's connected to a tent that's seen in the light of your countenance that can be departed and removed or be taken down. But that tent can be, if it says nothing. Your tent can be nothing, or your tent can be everything. Or your tent can be fire, your tent can be empty. If it's nothing, it's empty, it's vain or vanity, or you're man. If you are man or flesh, your state of mind is carnal, therefore your tent will be nothing. But here's what's good. He hangs the earth upon nothing. The nothing is the face of the deep. Remember, it says in Genesis chapter 1, it says, darkness was upon the face of the deep. It also repeats that in Jeremiah. It says that the heavens, they had no light. When the face of the deep is your countenance, the light of your countenance, but it's also the heavens because it's connected to the air. The air is the same as the deep or the waters because it's all an interrelated system. God made a multifaceted system to explain his original pattern, which is inside. The original pattern is the scale of of our spirits. It says God measures or weighs the spirits. That's in Proverbs 16 verse 2. When God weighs it, he uses a scale. There's a 7-level scale of his light, but there's a 7-level scale of the dark. And he weighs you that way by just looking at you. Anybody can do this. It's like, well, God weighs the spirits. No, God gives us the same scales that Jesus had. Jesus gives us the same scales of wisdom to us, and that's called numbering. To measure is to number. And it says, can you number the clouds in wisdom? That's in Job. Can you number the clouds? That cloud is the waters or the tent or the garment. There's a whole lot of routes I could take to show that, but I wanted to show this first, that your age is your state. Age is your state, which is connected to days. So that means your state of mind produces a certain throne. And that throne is a tent. But that your age can be nothing if you don't know your end. If you don't know your end, that means the people think that it's like, oh, I need to know my end of how old how long I can live. No, that's not what that means. That's the carnal way. The spiritual mystery for the spiritual dynamics is make me to know my days, meaning let me know times. It says a wise man's heart discerns both times and judgment.
Teach me to number my days.
So to be taught how to number your days is the same thing as saying to number the clouds in wisdom. Is the same thing as saying to discern the face of his garment. You have to discern or how to read thoughts and intents of the heart to know both good and evil. This is what the meat of the word is. This is what's getting out there right now in the apostolic movement that they've been robbing us of. They've been trying to say dominion's only for Jesus when he comes back. No, dominion is one of the skills you get from eating meat, and dominion is setting up the tent. Dominion is setting up the stones of fire inside you that lifts your eyes up. Drawing close to God is dominion. Okay? And that is aging you to a good place. You're not withering, but you're flourishing. And that makes your state better. There's other threads I can go. There's your best state and your worst state. I'll just say the best is the opposite of nothing. That's best is there's a best and worst, and your best is when you know and discern good and evil, and you choose good. You choose the fear of the Lord. How much time do I have? Okay, we're still fresh in it. What else do I have? Oh, I know. Okay, I know one. So we have to go to Job. Go ahead and flip it because I didn't see what it is. What does that say? 17?
17.
Yeah, we got to go to Job 14 first before we can go to Job 17. Dang. So, but it's going to set it up for us. We have, there's so much I want to say on camera. I'm like, but it's like, it takes a while. Job 14. Remember I promised a long time ago, like about 3 videos ago, I'd read this whole chapter. Well, we're going to go up to verse 12. And I want to begin to, starting at verse 1, that I want to, there it is. So I want to start with verse 1 because this is where the revelation starts of being born again. This is all tied into the same thing. We need to build these synonymous terms to know how to birth the waters, which is the cloud, which is the garments, which is the tent, which is God's throne, which is the days and times of God, and seasons that are like days of heaven. To have days of heaven upon the earth, you got to set up God's tent. So these are the words that begin to build that. Chapter 14, verse 1. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible because there's so much in here. So I'm just going to bam, 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 and go all over, okay?
Yep.
Man that is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble. He comes forth. That come forth is born. How are you born? You're born by come forth. Like a flower and is cut down, he flees. When you're cut down, you flee. Also as a shadow, and continues not. If you flee, you continue not, you're cut down. But if you continue, you come forth and you're born. So born is come forth is continue. Opposite of that is cut down, flee, and continue not. And here we go, verse 3. And dost thou open thine eyes? This is big. When you open your eyes, you're born. You know, so you, I won't get much more graphic than that. So when you open, you can continue. So there's open your eyes. So you know your eyes have to do with being born. Doesn't your eyes your age and your eyes is your days? So that means being born is connected to your eyes, which is connected to continue. I'll continue on. Upon such a one, and bring me into judgment with you. So what's funny is there's a hidden principle of spiritual dynamics written in his conversation with him. So to bring someone into judgment is to bring is also to give. You find out when you give. Right now I'm bringing. When you judge yourself, right? You bring someone in and judge. They can judge yourself. They judge yourself. Their eyes get opened up. Right? When you do that, that has to do with continuing. The only way you can continue is to judge yourself to continue on, right? So it has to do with your eyes. It has to do with opening your eyes. Judgment is opening your eyes opening. All right? Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? So to be clean, you judge yourself. To bring a clean is to also open. When you clean yourself up, you actually begin to open a door. Or it says, he that walks in the light as he's in the light, the blood of Jesus Christ cleanses us from all sin. The blood of Jesus cleanses you if you walk in the light or continue. To continue, find out later in the book of John, is to remain. When you remain, your fruit remains, right? I'll move. So to bring a clean, you can bring a clean thing out of a clean thing, unclean, because we're going to get into it. You have to open someone's eyes and they have to be judged, and you need a sacrifice, is what you find out. So it goes on, it says, seeing his days are determined, and the number of his months are with thee. To be with God is to be clean. And so to be with God is to, it depends on how close you are to him. Your age begins to get brighter and cleaner. Remember from Job chapter 15 when it said, we don't know, it's okay. When Job chapter 15, it says that your eyes is your age, but your age has to be clear. It's clear or as a noon and clear and bright like the noonday. So when you're clear, you're clean, and makes your age to be bright. When you're with God, you're clean, and now those are your days. And it continues on, it says, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. You find out that your bounds is your days. Or you can say this, your bounds is a water barrier. Because you find, and we're going to read, it's going to be down in there in the bottom, but your days, which is connected to being born, which is connected to your age and your state, which is connected to your eyes opening, which when your eyes open is connected to judgment and being clean. Okay, I'm going to continue on. When that happens, you set up boundaries and then the wicked can't pass. If you begin to get dirty or unclean, that also sets up a boundary and you can't pass over into the bright, to where the clean is. So it sets up a hedge, a light hedge. That's why the devils can't get in when you have a hedge of protection around about you. They can't get in. There, it sets up a boundary that they cannot pass. Your days and your times, and a tent is set up, and the tent is a throne which has boundaries, and it's a water barrier.
It's like you wake up to what they're doing.
Right. It has to do with your eyes, has to do with your thoughts, and it makes that anyone cannot pass. It says, turn from him that he may rest. That means leave me alone. Till when? Till he shall accomplish as a hireling his day. You have to accomplish something on your end to bring your days. You have to accomplish your day. You accomplish as a hireling his day. So if you have no, what's really actually, it's, you don't want the enemy to turn from you. You actually want the enemy to bring you head on, because when the enemy comes at you, you want the wisdom of how to beat him and overcome. Jesus said, fear not, for I have overcome the world. You will be persecuted. But it says, blessed are those that use you, persecute you and despitefully use you, right? Because you need those things that come for the word's sake. It's temptation, tribulation, affliction, persecution, come for the word's sake. He wants it to turn from him so he can have rest. It's the same thing Paul said. Take this thorn from me. He said, my grace is sufficient, meaning I'll give you water. I'll give you eyes. I'll give you a boundary that will push it off you. That grace is the power of God that's sufficient. You'll find out the grace of God is the power of God, is the water of God, is the boundary of God, is the day of God and the throne of God. I've given you the keys of David. That's what the Pharisees and Sadducees took away, but Jesus came, brought it back, and then he was teaching it through the Holy Spirit to Paul. And Paul gave it to everybody and wrote it all down. That's what this is. So it all came out of Job, which is really deep. So it said, turn from him that he may rest. And you'll find that turning has a lot to do with your growth and lack thereof too. Until he shall accomplish as a hireling his day. You'll find out there's something in chapter 7. We may get to it. I don't know. It depends on what route we go. I'll try to get to it before we get to... I'll move on. So verse 7, for there is hope of a tree. Now man is known as a tree. Here now he's comparing man, because he's talking about man. Remember verse 1, man. There is hope of a tree if it be cut down. But remember, it said in verse 2, he comes forth like a flower and is cut down. But now he's like a tree if he's cut down. That it will sprout again. Sprout, I thought we were talking about being born. That's where it came from. There's hope of a tree that if we cut down, that it will be born again. That's where it all came from. The gospel of the new covenant was hidden right here. So if there's hope of what? The resurrection. Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's not when he comes back. They changed it to that. Nope, it's all about your eyes opening and sowing. As fast as you can sow, as fast as you can do, we're building to Paul's pattern. We're building to that. You don't want the enemy to turn from you. You want the enemy, you want to face him head on and beat him. You want to get the answers, learn how to operate, sow towards the flesh, sow towards the spirit, reap everlasting life, which is the tent, and begin to scatter the enemy. That's what you want. That's what we're building here. So that it will sprout again, or by the eyes being opened and you judging yourself, that's how you sprout again. And the tender branch, which is a tree, thereof will not cease. If it's not ceasing, it's not being cut down, it's not fleeing, it's continuing. And there's hope that you will be clean. How? Walk in light, season in light. That blood of Jesus Christ cleanses you from all sin because the blood of Jesus. Now verse 8, though the root thereof wax old in the earth. And we know that the root has to do with your eyes, wax old in the earth, and the stock thereof die in the ground. This is the tree. There's the root of man, and there's the stock of man. We know that when you have your stock is your children, right? It's your roots and your stock. It's how you continue on naturally, but you can continue on spiritually too. All right, the wax old in the earth and the stock thereof die in the ground, yet through the scent of water it will bud. When you say bud, it will sprout. To sprout is to bud, is to be born again through water, or through we know the water is the Holy Spirit, which sets up that boundary. You'll see it sets up the bounds. The water sets up the bounds, and the bounds are your days, so that when those are set up, not only can the enemy not pass through you, but you can you can pass through the tent anywhere you want when you come up to a higher place. A place is a lot that's inside. A place is a lot is a room inside the water, when the water is a tent, which is a boundary that sets up all around you. And so you begin to open up these new places that you can pass through. So like there's certain places that you can't pass in your nation unless you get equipped how to take over your nation. Once you get equipped to do it, and God blesses you with the finances and with the knowledge of how to take over your nation, you're just going to do it. Why? Because that pathway or that door opens up for you to go there. Mm-hmm. You'll start knowing where to go. You're like, I'm going to go to the heads. I'm going to remove that person. I'm going to start it. You start doing what the NSA is doing.
Yeah, Trump.
Yeah, what Trump's doing. Like, right? So in verse 9, so yet through the scent of water it will bud and bring forth boughs like a plant. Right? So you bring forth, which is to bring a clean thing. To bring forth is to bring clean. Right? It's to born. To bear is to birth, is to born, is to bring forth. Next verse, verse 10. But man dieth and wastes away. That's man without God, by the way. And man gives up the ghost. Remember, the ghost is your eyes. And where is he? Right? Where is he? Where's the ghost go? You have to think about those things. As the waters fail from the sea, and the flood decayeth and dries up or disappears. So remember that disappear and that dry up and that decay, you could also say it departs. The waters depart and they fail, or the waters roll up like a scroll. So that means your waters is the heavens, is your eyes, is the tent. So last one, and this is what verse 12. So man, here's what happens when those things dry up. So man lies down and rises not till the heavens be no more. The heavens be no more. So all of space is going away. Well, this is where the problem with space comes in. So this is the firmament, the dome or the tent. The tent will be no more. They shall not awake nor be raised out of their sleep. So here's the thing. This is more than, I'm going to give two meanings to this. Man lies down and doesn't rise when he withers when the waters fail. But he'll come back when the heavens, the firmament goes away. The resurrection of the damned will come back. Why? Because there's so much glory, it's going to fill everything. The dead will come up, but they're going to be spiritually dead. They're going to be bound by the people that have bodies. This is why it's not going to happen until the very end. The people that are dead will be raised and will be judged. That's the resurrection of the damned. But us, we can grab them. They can't outpower us because we're stronger than them. And we're going to send them away to a lake of burns of fire and brimstone. Right? But before that, not talking about the firmament dome, I'm now talking about the air. When the heavens are no more, as the sense of the heavens as the shadow of death and the nothing, where the face of the deep is dark and void, that heavens has to be rolled up and depart, because the fiery stream of the heavens as a fiery stream has to stretch out, or Christ has to stretch out his hand. All right, so God's hand is God's waters, which is the fiery stream, which is his throne, begins to the eyes of spirit, the eyes of Christ, the mind of Christ begins to stretch out and rolls up the eyes of flesh, and that goes away, and that's what makes man rise from the dead. That's called the dew of the morning that we read about, the beauty of holiness. The beauty of holiness is the waters that fill you and your eyes. Now you can literally, and I've done this before, I'm on day 4, and I'm birthing day 5. I have waves of it, but I can't hold it long enough yet because I need more points. Because I go in and out, it slips because I don't have enough of these words built up yet. But he's starting to build them all. As I talk about it and I walk in it throughout the day and I overcome the test, I find myself holding the reality longer. And when you hold the reality, because the reality is this, guys, this is why the flat earth is the number one thing. But the flat earth by itself isn't enough. You have to know the flat earth with the infrastructure of Mashiach, of the tent. And that has to be in your mind, so you have to know how to get your crown, Paul's pattern. When you hold that, you see that you're in a tent. You're like, oh, the history of what happened with Lucifer is true. That hits you so hard that you're like, we got to start playing. It makes you look up, and you're aware of your state, and then you're aware of playing the game all day long. Whereas when you think that we're on space, it dissolves the reality of God, and it rolls that up like a scroll, and that departs. So that keeps you eyes of flesh. It really dries you up, and now you become unclean because you can't hold that reality. You're holding lies, and you hold fast to deceit. So it's very hard to raise people from the dead when your reality is corrupted. You know what I mean? So real quick, let's go to Job chapter 7. We're almost done. Job chapter 7. I think like 10 more minutes. There's a lot in here because I have to get a lot on camera.
Verse.
Beginning of it. Going to the beginning of the chapter. This will help paint a picture. There's more before this, but it's not. I mean, yeah. Okay, so I'll read verse 7, or chapter 7, verse 1. Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days? There it is. Days or times. Also like the days of a hireling. Remember we talked about a hireling just now? So it talks about as a hireling is a servant. So is like the days of a hireling, as a servant earnestly desires the shadow, and as a hireling looks for the reward of his work. That means he's working out in the heat of the day, and that heat of the day he wants a shadow. Just a shade is going to be a reward to him. So that reward is the reward of his work, and the hireling or the servant has a work, right? So, and let's go and turn it back on. So there's let's scroll this down. I need to see chapter 6. There is, let me see. Scroll down a little bit. No. Yeah. There is work tied to dig. Okay. I'm trying to think if I want to say this or not. Okay, I'll say a little bit. It's hard to see it here, but 6:26, right before chapter 7, it says, do you imagine to reprove words and the speeches of one that is desperate? which are as wind. See, it says imagine. That word imagine also means intend. Remember the thoughts and intentions of the heart? Your imagination is tied to your intentions. And that is tied to verse 30 where it says, is there iniquity in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern perverse things? What you discern has a taste to it, or a palate. There's a palate to your discernment. And your discernment is what your discernment is tied to your intentions, which is tied to your imagination. What you know is in your imagination. Your intentions are what you look for. What you seek is what you look, is your intentions. That's tied in your imagination, which is what you discern, what you're seeing, which is tied to your taste. And that taste is to your tongue. And so now that makes more sense. You will end up, well, I'll say verse 27, 6:27 says, yea, you overwhelm the fatherless and you dig a pit for your friend. That dig is also tied to work. When you're digging for something, you're seeking something, right? You're seeking your intentions. When someone like there's a lot of girls that will, like, if you're dating and stuff like that, there's a lot of girls that will screen you. They're digging for information to find out your money status. And like, you know, and so that they'll kind of like drain your pockets on certain dates, and they'll kind of pace and lead you. So their intentions to see how much you'll spend on them and how deep your pockets are, right? You can see that in their imagination. They're looking for it, right? They're digging for it. They're looking for it. And I'm using that as an example. So back on 7:2, we need to know that to say this. As a servant earnestly desires the shadow. Whatever you earnestly desire is going to be your taste and your palate. That's tied to your imaginations, your intentions, and what you discern or what you know. Right? If all you know is to put people in pyramid schemes and to rob them so you can travel the world off of their dime and not have any bills yourself, you're going to have a taste for that. And you're going to be looking for that. Right? And so, for you, that's your reward. That's your reward, right? But it's the counsel of the wicked. It's a false reward. It's called the gain of oppressions. That's what Isaiah called it, the gain of oppressions, or the reward of oppression. You're oppressing someone else to get rewarded off someone's oppression. That's a very Luciferian. There's another way. There's a way of Christ, and that's what collapsed the Roman Empire. So the reward of his work. So it says, as a servant earnestly desires the shadow, and as a hireling looks. You look by earnestly desiring. You look for the reward of his work. So am I made by look, to possess months of vanity, and wearisome nights are appointed to me. If they're appointed to you, you possess them. So your reward is by possessing, by appointed. And what is your reward? Nights and months of vanity. And remember, in Psalms, vanity was nothing, which was vain, which is make me to know mine end. You remember it says, if you have months of vanity, your times are worthless. Meaning you're being sucking things, you're taking value, because everything you do is leechy. Right? That's your reward. You're trying to get reward off of other people by leeching, and now you're sucking everything dry, and that's called weariness or wearisome. It wears you out and wears other people out, because you're always hungry. I'm so tired. I'm so weary, and then you start leeching off everyone else, like, I'm better now. But that only lasts for so long, because when you suck the life out of someone else, they're like, screw this, I'm getting out of this. And now you're like, now I got to find someone else to, whatever pyramid scheme that you have them in, right? It's the same thing. So I'm just using an economic model, but there's so many more models in this. There's a spiritual model. Your emotions can be depleted, right? But I want you to know this number one thing, that appointed, remember the time appointed is when you grow. So there's things that are appointed or set or determined by laws that are already here. Those laws were already set up. When you begin to walk in those laws, you begin to possess the rewards what those laws bring. Your reward can be judgment and punishment, but your reward can be blessing and life, right? Your reward can be the curse, because God rewards every man according to his works. He recompenses you. He rewards or recompenses everything that you deserve. And it's all right there. And I got one last thing, promise. We'll go to Job 17. This will set us up for the next one. Last one. Verse 5. We read this a little bit before, but it's going to set us up. It says, verse 5, he that speaketh flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children shall fail. Remember in chapter 14, we said that the waters will fail? When your eyes fail, guess what happens? Your eyes are connected to your days. Your days is connected to your throne. Your throne is connected to your tent. Because remember, your eyes is also your age, which is your state. So, and that's all connected to your ghost or your spirit. So when your eyes fail, what happens is your tent collapses, the throne ceases. This is what we're going to get into, is that on the next video, I have to stop here, is two things we're going to pick up on the next one, is that a throne has to do with your eyes being bright or dim. A throne has to do with strongholds ceasing or continuing. Remember we just read in Job about that he will cease. He'll continue not. Right? If your waters fail, you'll cease and you'll continue not. It also says in 1 Corinthians 13 that in the love chapter that without love, tongues will cease. Right? People say, they changed all that stuff to, when the Bible comes, we don't need tongues anymore. That's not what that means. No, when that which is perfect has come. Perfection is when your waters are abounding. When your waters are flourishing and you're not drying up, withering, and failing, you are accomplishing your day. And so you're opening your eyes, you're becoming clean. When you become clean, you pass. You don't fail, you pass. Right? And so you begin to, your tent goes back up. Okay? Last thing I'll say right here, verse 7. Mine eye also is dim by reason of sorrow. All my members are as a shadow. So that shadow is the same thing over here. Right here, verse 16, the previous chapter. My face is foul with weeping, and on my eyelids is the shadow of death. All that was caused by verse 14, he breaks me breach upon breach. So when you have breaches, okay, I know I promised, I'm sorry. I do have to say one last thing. It'll bring it all back home. This is the last one. Go to Isaiah, where we was with the tent. This is the last one right here. Here it is. So he was talking about, remember, my age is removed and departed like a shepherd's tent. Well, here he said it a different way. Verse 14 on that, is it 37? 38. 38, Isaiah 38, 14 says, I did mourn as a dove. Remember, he was sorrowful. Job chapter 17. If your eyes are dim, he said your sorrow and you have the shadow of death. And then it says that your face is weeping and all that right here. Here it says, mine eyes fail with looking upward. O Lord, I am oppressed. Undertake for me. So you're oppressed or you're a captive when your eyes fail from looking up. When your eyes fail from looking up, you have just taken down God's tent. You took down his tabernacle. There's so many more scriptures I could have showed on camera. It's just, we got to keep, well, I'm going to continue to build onto this. But when you're, all in all, when your eyes fail from looking upward, your waters dry up. When your waters dry up, you begin to dry up. That's when you begin to head into oppression. Isaiah says, when you dry up, you begin to open hell. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like most of the big picture, because the biggest thing I wanted to get resolved today is that your thoughts sets up God's throne, which is a tent.
And your age departs when.
Yeah, and your age, well, your times is your dominion. Mm-hmm. Your times, which is your days, which is connected to your eyes and your thoughts. All that is connected to the dominion or the throne or the kingdom that's on you, right? You can see your age or your number of your cloud in the light of your countenance. When you begin to tear down the tent, your age is getting far from God. So your times is getting far. You're becoming more like the world, so the world remains. So Babylon stays. You become Babylon. You become a stake or pillar in Babylon's heavens that they're trying to set up like a tent. Any questions? Hey, like
You explained it pretty well.
okay, good. Okay, for the viewers out there, let me know if you have any questions or comments. Just leave them in the comment section. You can email us at hollywoodhustle15@gmail. You can also tune in on Saturday for our podcast and ask us there. You can hit us up on Facebook Messenger, Hollywood Hustle. We're at Hollywood Hustle and also Hollywood Hustle TV on Instagram and on YouTube. Of course, you're there now if you're watching this. All right, we're going to end here on next. On Saturday, we're going to continue this sort of conversation. We're going to continue in the podcast studio more about Hitler because we have so much more to say about that. We didn't get everything on camera, and we'll continue this conversation about the tent and the throne and all of that next week. Okay, everybody? All right, see you guys again soon. All right, bye-bye.
Welcome to the Hollywood Hustle. We can dance all night.